And the idea is like Bitcoin is going to win. It's already like it's like Bitcoiners know Bitcoin's going to win. It's like a
Yeah.
foregone conclusion. And so the question is, if you're going to win, how are you going to prepare to win? What comes after that? Do we just have crypto anarchy and we all live in Bitcoin citadels? Well, that
Mhm.
sounds like really terrible, actually. I don't want to live in a citadel. I want to live in a civilization.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Okcoin Live. And today, I, Alex Shezak, will be the only one hosting this great interview with my good friend Patrick Stanley, who's the community lead of MiamiCoin. And Patrick, look, first of all, welcome to the show. But second of all, how do you feel that this is a mano a mano, one one kind of situation? I mean, are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready for it. And thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Good. I was thinking, should we do this the friendly way or more of like the crossfire verbal sparring?
I like verbal sparring. Crossfire is more fun. Friendly is good for like off camera, but it comes across as like phony, on camera,
Okay. Well, okay, coin live audience, you guys heard it here first. This is gonna be a spar of the century, the joust of all jousts, basically. This is gonna
Yeah.
happen. So let's start like this. We'll give you a softball, an easy one.
Mhm.
I think all of our audience knows what Miami Coin is, but can you please just for those who don't know, can you talk a little bit about City Coins, Miami
Mhm.
Coin? There's another one that's New York Coin, right? That you guys
Mhm.
have. Talk a little bit about proof of transfer because it's very important
Mhm.
in what you're doing with the coins, and then your vision, and then we can go into a lot more depth.
Yeah, sure. So city coins are a category of coins, tokens that are basically city-based cryptocurrencies. So the coins themselves are not supposed to be a replacement for the US dollar. They're more close. They're closer to functioning as governance tokens to basically, program applications that are specific to cities. So, for example, you can use CityCoin to vote um, on spending down the multi-million dollar treasury that is associated with the growing multi-million dollar treasury that's associated with each city. Um, you can use city coins to program applications that require those specific city coins to be used. So, for example, you could have like a proof of HODL access control to certain spaces. You could even like expand the geography of a city through that function, which I find kind of cool. You can mint NFTs with them. There's been almost $250,000 worth of NFTs minted using city coins. It's a great way for like local artists to support their community and sell their art. But I think these tokens are a useful sort of like way for people to organize themselves around a value unit that's specific to that municipality. And my basic belief is that markets are going to eat everything, just as software is eaten everything. Software is eaten Hollywood with Netflix. It's eaten a bit of like education with like Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy. Um, it's eaten taxi cabs. It's eaten hotels. And I
It's a
think
hungry, hungry beast.
that's right, and that's the Web 2 trend, and that won't stop. Obviously, you'll just have the softwareification of everything, but the sort of Web 3 version of the Web 3 corollary is that markets are going to now eat everything, and so um, cities right now have things like and I'll wrap up in a bit, but cities currently have municipal debt. So what they do is they issue debt that they then have to pay back. Um, they get free funding. They get funding that they have to pay back later with tax dollars, and those taxpayers don't really opt into that. That's like compulsory sort of obligation that the taxpayers have to pay into. Whereas CityCoins is closer to like municipal, like buying into like municipal governance in a way. So it's almost like you can spend to mine city coins out of opportunity as opposed to obligation. Yeah, so I think we were one of the first, if not the first, project um, to pretty much like generalize. Stacks' consensus mechanism and use it for a new coin on top of Stacks. And that consensus mechanism is called proof of transfer. So, you know, proof of transfer is like a variation of proof of burn. Um, and so instead of spending electricity to mine a coin, which Bitcoin does, and in my opinion, Bitcoin should probably be like the only proof of work chain, and we should all just anchor into it, and that's what proof of transfer does. So, um, so you spend cryptocurrency in order to mine new city coins, and Stacks does the same thing as well. They Stacks Stacks is like Ethereum on top of Bitcoin, um, and you mine Stacks by forwarding Bitcoin in and by spending Bitcoin as opposed to spending electricity. So you're like recycling Bitcoin. And so CityCoins is like, oh, that's good. Let's just do that on top of the Stacks, on top of the layer, layer two, layer 1.5 that Stacks is. And so you send Stacks in to mine new CityCoins. So it's kind of like Bitcoin in to mine Stacks, Stacks in to mine CityCoins.
So let me ask you this. So let's just kind of jump into it. You said, look, it's a way to reimagine civic engagement. You talk about municipal bonds and another way for cities to get revenue. Why not just do it with stacks? Why do they need Miami coin? And maybe alternatively, why can't you do it with a generic city coin for every city? Why does every city need a bespoke coin?
Yeah. Well, good question. You know, if you wanted to it's not this isn't like a really great analogy, but you know, if you wanted to have a stake in the success of Google, you wouldn't invest in Facebook. Just like if you if you think San Francisco is going to have a turnaround, and you think New York City uh, is going to do worse in the future, or there'll be less people willing to root on New York or build for New York. Uh, you want to separate out. You want to separate out basically where you're adding value to, whether that's monetary value or intellectual capital. Uh, and I think people generally they organize people or like cities are like a pretty strong network effect, and people basically either want to make bets on the specific cities, or want to contribute to those specific cities, but they may not want to contribute to other cities. Um, so um,
So how do
mm,
let's say I make a bet on Miami, right? Well, I mean, Miami is
mm,
the most generic example. It was the first one
mm,
out of the gate. You guys have done really well with it.
mm,
If I want to make a bet on Miami, how do I make a bet on Miami and ensure,
mm,
right, that Miami or the mayor, in this case, Francis Suarez, does what I'd like him to do? Because let's face it, not all of us have, we're on a spectrum of politics.
mm,
It's not just I'm pro Suarez, I'm against Suarez. There's
mm,
some things he does that I agree with, some things he does, let's say, that I disagree with. So, how do I make sure that, or how do I know that the money that I essentially am
mm.
staking, right, on that city goes to the causes that I believe in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, uh, um, if you could want to be involved and have a stake in a city and still not like the mayor. So that's like totally possible, and I think that will happen actually a lot in the future, uh, because basically when you're committing to a city coin, you're committing to the community that's built around the city coin. So that might be agnostic of the mayor. And we're moving more toward a community owned and operated um, sort of protocol, as opposed to one that just gifts money to the city and then the city can spend it as they wish. So we're moving more toward the DAO model than to sort of like uh, just benefiting the city government. And there's reasons for that. I've been on calls uh, with some like really brilliant people, and one of the things they said in in the early days was like, I wish I could I wish I could I wish I could, tell the government where to put my tax dollars. Like that was actually like a big, sort of like breakthrough sort of thought.
Mhm.
And with CityCoins 2.0, which is kind of which is what we're upgrading to. There's a DAO model where it allows you to vote with your coin. So say you hold MiamiCoin or a New York City coin, you vote with your coin, and what was likely to occur is you vote with your coin to basically elect like an advisory panelist that gets to allocate capital directly. And if you don't like what they're doing, you can basically vote them out or undelegate your funds. And so,
Mhm.
in effect, you can essentially vote for where you want money to be spent from the multi-million-dollar treasury. Um, so, um, yeah, it's giving people. It's much closer to direct democracy. It's getting like a step closer to direct democracy. It's like more like stakeholder democracy.
Just betting on that. So that's interesting. I know you mentioned CityCoins 2.0. I want to get there, right? And I want to get on, who's building on CityCoins and why.
Mm,
Before we do that, what's just tell us a little bit about the macro vision. What's the response been across
mhm,
different cities? We could start with Miami,
mhm,
right? Because Miami was a very positive response. I know well, there's obviously New York. On the website, there are other cities that are teased. I don't know if we
mm.
want to alpha leak, which I know you desperately want to alpha leak here, but which other cities are coming here first or next,
Yeah.
I should say. But what's the response been when you're in these conversations? And has it changed, right, as the market turned down and as
Mhm.
we go into building mode? Has it changed at all?
I think uh, I think the role of city government and city coins, uh, I think, is going to be not as important in the new model. There'll be some importance. They'll have some rights and some checks and balances. Uh, but what we're trying to do is get governments to move at the speed of crypto. And so, if you're bottlenecked by them at every juncture, you can't actually achieve that goal. So the model that we're working toward is one that should accelerate like fast, effective capital deployment into things that make citizens' lives better. Okay, so the I think generally, um, all that being said, generally mayors and city governments, um, it depends on what city you're talking about and how captured they are by certain ideologies. Um, so there, I have some stories to tell actually too, which are kind of interesting. Um, but basically, I think mayors are starting to realize that they need to recruit people to come to their city. They need to recruit talent and capital the same way a CEO would. Like a CEO's only job is basically recruiting talent and capital. If they're doing their job right, they're recruiting
Mhm.
capital, great talent, and fundraising basically. And mayors can do that, like Suarez has done, to transform their city. Um, Now, and cities want to be technologically progressive, as long as it doesn't come with additional headache. So you know, city governments are generally pretty risk averse. So anything that deals in markets can be scary to them. But I'd say they've been surprisingly receptive, and I think I think once new city coins activate, um, uh, city governments at their own pace tend to engage with them. They
Mhm.
don't ignore them; they tend to engage with them, even if it's slow. They still do. Um, um, One interesting thing that we like, I've had some conversations with some city governments where I've said like, we think it'd be great to have a dashboard with an NPS score so that citizens can rate whether they'd refer their city to a friend. Just
Yeah.
like a very simple concept, like you would do for a startup, and like why not? Like try it out. Some things should be tried out like that. And the city said, uh, we don't want to do that because we don't know if we'll like what the results are, and we don't want to be accountable to those results. It's a major city, major city, like top 10 U.S. city. So there are certain dashboard sort of like measurement things that cities necessarily don't necessarily want. Um, and some cities don't want to be accountable to a market. They don't want to have a boss beyond um, like a 2 to 4 year
Mhm.
sort of voting cycle. Like that's too much stress and pressure for them. They don't want the stress of a CEO in a public market. Um, but that being said, I think they know they have to be technologically progressive in order to be competitive, and um, they're interested in the funding, in more capital coming into their city without the footprint of a city of a company, like the tax base of a large company without the footprint, um, and um, and they're interested in the open source aspect. Um, and also, like, developers building applications specific to their city, just like creating an open source
Mhm.
application layer. um, and
By the
surprisingly,
way,
they've actually been very interested in like stable coins too. I found that. So like they're interested in like not being reliant on federal
oh, is there
government.
gonna be Miami Coin stablecoin?
Oh, I don't know, we'll see.
USDM,
USDM. It would probably just be like Miami Cash.
Miami
But
Cash.
yeah, but the
Is
stablecoin
this in
thing
the
is actually,
works?
there's like a biweekly group that works on this. I mean, I'm in the meetings. People are making forward progress on it. I'm not like running. I'm not running that. Like it could happen or not happen. But there's definitely been interest. And the interesting thing about that actually is, what you basically be doing is giving cities a little bit of like root control over their own stable dollar while bending the knee to the U.S. dollar. Paying your taxes in U.S. dollars, but you'd have root access to your own stable dollar. Uh, that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is you can't be deplatformed, uh, and you can grow your supply of your stable dollar as a function of its use, which makes cities and states less reliant on federal block grants, where they like beg the government, for tens of millions of dollars here, hundreds of millions of dollars
Mhm.
there. They're like, please print us some of that money, some of that precious USD, and give it to us. Instead, they can like take control of their own future a little bit more.
So tell me, why not just use a regular stable, right? With Miami Coin, why create, or why are some people looking to create like Miami Cash? Why not use USDC with it? Because it
You
would
could
have
you could
scale
back
and
it
liquidity.
you could back it with USDC, but what USDC or crypto or whatever. Um, but the key is giving cities root. So like cities don't have root access over US dollars.
Mhm.
That's they're cities are like an application on top of USD. Cities also don't have root over USDC. Federal government can come in and say, censor these people, censor these people, censor these people. And just as there are sanctuary cities for, um, immigrants or, marijuana or things like that, there will also be sanctuary cities for, crypto. I was just in Miami like last month, and there's 50 mayors from all over the country that flew in to, talk about crypto. They're all very like technologically progressive people. There's some, they had their questions that, they're like learning. They're like going through the ABCs, one, two, threes of it. But they're all these mayors are realizing that, one, crypto, can make their cities more financially robust and healthy, without the footprint of a company necessarily.
Mhm.
um, and 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 it looks like these mayors are looking to kind of like make a pact together that they're not going to balk. They're going to be pro crypto, and if they all jump at the same time and become sanctuary cities, that's really hard to stop them.
So there are a lot of interesting themes here. I mean, I want to tease out a lot, but one thing. So one, I noticed you talked about MPS, not having MPS and an external dashboard. However, the City Coin and the price of it is essentially a very publicly visible NPS. Now, what you would have to tease apart from that is the natural moves of the market. The market crashes, the price crashes. That's not necessarily an indication of the city, just liquidity getting pulled out and moved into other pieces of the ecosystem, right? So, how do you think about the price of a city coin being
Mhm.
essentially an MPS metric, and then how do you tease out the market moves?
Yeah, so I think the price of a city coin is largely correlated to the amount of utility that's been built thus far. It's kind of like a measuring stick for utility. Um, and utility on utility in the early days of the city coins ecosystem is going to take years to build up, and that's why what we're doing is we're focusing the core utility on it being used as a governance token, so it has immediate utility from day one
Mhm.
to elect and vote and things like that, which is like that's like a it's like a sort of new form of governance on a local level, which we find very interesting and worth pursuing. But utility, like creating like NFT ecosystem, building more smart contracts to create more applications. Pardon me, building applications, building mining companies, things like that. That's all happening, but it's like pushing a train. You start if you push a train from a standing start, it's not going to feel like it's even budging, right?
Mhm.
And so that's reflected in the market. But now this train is starting to move a little bit, and like yeah, you might be putting in the effort of running a sprint, but you're only moving like an inch by inch. But as it goes faster and faster and faster, you don't have to push as much, or you don't have to exert as much energy to push it. And so I'd say like you know we're at the phase where the train is not at a standstill; it's like starting to move. And some indicators of that are we had 500 developers sign up for this recent MiamiCoin Web3 developer camp.
500.
That's 500. I was like
Wow.
shocked. So thanks to Venture Miami uh, and thanks to Miami-Dade College, they have like great network. They selected the top 120 local developers. So they're trying to keep it local. You can check my recent tweets. Like, there's like a picture of
Mhm.
just some of the people that were in person, and there's a bunch of people that are remote, and all those people are going to be building applications with Miami Coin, and they're all going to become, part of the developer ecosystem. Um, so
So tell
there's
me a little
there's
bit
real
about this.
demand and interest.
Yeah, look, I really want to dig into this. Why why build a Miami coin versus, let's say, Stacks? And then also, how do you see building a Miami coin as a way to accelerate the Miami coin ecosystem, right? To really get it off the ground.
Yeah. Um, so if you're civic minded, okay. Well, let me take a huge step back. Um, um, like people who are listening to this probably like more often than not live in a city or city area, uh, but often they don't really have a permissionless way to improve the city. And what city coins offers is a permissionless uh, way for developers to add knowledge and build applications that can directly benefit the city and its citizens. Uh, and one of the mandates of the DAO that's being created for each of these cities is that we need to improve quality of life for citizens.
Hmm.
And so what we're doing is we're fusing an open source protocol to a locality, to a city. And Stacks is more like a Stacks is like almost like you could view it like a totally global protocol that's not specific to any jurisdiction, where you can almost view it like a Bitcoin bond that incentivizes building on Bitcoin. Like that's kind of how I view it.
Hmm.
Um, and city coins are closer to like ownership in a network of cities. Um, and it's almost like why you choose to build on or own a city coin is similar to like why you choose to live in a country or another country,
Mm.
if you have the option.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are
And
they building?
if yeah
Yeah.
and I'll make another point and come back to what they're building. Our good friend Balaji Srinivasan has this really good saying. He says, Bitcoin at $10,000 is a movement. I think he says that Bitcoin at $100,000 is like a small country. Uh, Bitcoin at $1 million is a global government. And what he says is that Bitcoin is not like a just a pro freedom government. that's local. It's a global pro freedom government. It's just not the one anyone expected. And um, we think that uh, with enough city coins active
Mhm.
and being built on, you kind of form this like mesh sort of network state that's built on Bitcoin and anchored to Bitcoin. And the idea is like Bitcoin is going to win. It's already like it's like Bitcoiners know Bitcoin's going to win. It's like a
Yeah.
foregone conclusion. And so the question is, if you're going to win, how are you going to prepare to win? What comes after that? Do we just have crypto anarchy and we all live in Bitcoin citadels? Well, that
Mhm.
sounds like really terrible, actually. I don't want to live in a citadel. I want to live in a civilization. Um, and so, building governance models. I'd rather build governance models and governance for cities on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is going to be here for hundreds of years. It's not clear other crypto protocols will. They're closer to companies than they are like an element on the periodic table of elements, which Bitcoin is. Okay. Um, so that's kind of like a very high, a very sort of high level thesis, basically. Um,
So tell me what's being built and what are you most excited about? Like there are many. We talked about NFTs, but what's maybe specific to cities or civic engagement that can really differentiate your well, I guess this, what do we want to call L3 chain, maybe,
right.
right?
Yeah.
What the CityCoin chain from everything else.
Yeah, for sure. So the types of applications that are being built look like applications that are going to increase people's health, happiness, and wealth. Um, and right now, there's about 11 to 12 projects that are in the CityCoins Accelerator that's run by Stacks Ventures. Um, and there's all sorts of projects like there's some like wireless networking projects. So like imagine like a local ISP where people can run their own internet service providers at their home and have it monetized by their local city coin. So that's like a way of you know getting like a Wi-Fi economy going on locally. Uh, Another is like gaming. So there are like there's some interesting games. There's like a racing game that's being created, and that's like it's like fun. Played it. It's actually kind of addictive. And then there's another game. There's like a health game where basically you have cities competing with citizens of different cities competing with each other to see who's the healthiest, who gets in the most steps, who's getting their heart rate up. You're getting folks who
That's
are
interesting.
building. Yeah, I love that one because um, these are things that are traditionally very difficult to measure. But cities should have dashboards that are like anonymized, but show directionally, how healthy is your city? How healthy, how happy is your city? And how wealthy is your city? You know, um, th- I mean, and there's like a bunch of other applications that are being built. But I guess like the broader point is like there's this term called state capacity um, that it's funny. Even like I was like surprised, like a lot of people who work in city government have never heard of this term, and it's like it's literally like it's the equivalent of like the term product market fit for startups. It's almost like it's like a term they should know, and is what I
Yeah.
mean. And state capacity just means the government's ability to like enforce the law, pave roads, collect trash, um, collect taxes. It's basically like a government's ability to be a government. Um, but there are some huge gaps that governments don't account for because these problems are hard to solve as a top-down organization. And some of those things are like trying to improve people's wealth, trying to improve people's health, and trying to improve people's happiness. I mean, for example, in Miami, there's a Bitcoin dividend that's going to go to as many Miami citizens as can be reached. And that Bitcoin dividend is coming directly from the stacks that are stacking in Miami's city wallet. So there's been about $500,000 of Bitcoin that's been generated thus far, and that Bitcoin is just going to be sent to all those Miami citizens. And so what happened there was you can measure that. You can say, okay, Miami citizens' wealth went up by $20 in Bitcoin. Do they hold on to it? Should we give them incentive to hold on to it? And what's interesting about that is imagine, oh, this is another application people are building. They're building namespaces for cities like .mia. That's like anchored Bitcoin. You can like pay for like Patrick.mia. You might pay $20 in MiamiCoin to buy that namespace, and then no one can take it away from you. But then now you can applications can build apps that are for citizens of that city. So if you wanted to test run a UBI program, you could just do it directly to those holders of that namespace.
Yeah.
Um, things like that.
I feel like you're experimenting a lot with adoption before everyone else, and it will be interesting to see. Well, one, if people get a dividend in BTC, will they sell? Two, will they hold? Right? Three, will it actually accelerate adoption of Bitcoin? I've always been a fan of the stacks ecosystem, of which you guys are obviously one, because the more that's being built, ultimately rolls down to Bitcoin. So, let's say these guys build something and then someone's building on their coin, those rewards, if they stake, will accrue to that project. The rewards of that project accrues to MiamiCoin. The rewards of MiamiCoin accrue to stacks. The rewards of stacks accrue to Bitcoin. And so it becomes, 2, 3, 4, 5 layer stacking deep.
That's right.
Uh, a program, which is pretty fascinating. You don't get this in other chains, and I think this is only because of proof of transfer.
Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is worth 10 to 20 trillion dollars just as like digital gold, but I think it's worth like $100 trillion as like a base, like the ledger of record, basically.
Oh God, give me some more hopium. This is give me some hope juice.
Well, I know I really do believe this. Like, um, I think like well, one, um, I think I think there's like a small minority of very strong voices um, that are basically Bitcoin maximalists, and um, they're basically like a dry drunk that goes to a party and tells everyone else not to drink because they got burned on an altcoin.
Yeah.
And in part, they're right because uh, Bitcoin Bitcoin's like the most deterministic, positive, kind of like profitable coin to be in for the
Mm.
long term. Like Bitcoin's not going away. It's like an element on the periodic table of elements, right? So there's good reason to hold a lot of Bitcoin in your portfolio. But um, if Bitcoin is never sort of terraformed and used as a base layer and competed and has its block space competed for building new applications, it can only reach a local maximum. And that local maximum might be gigantic. It might be 20x from where it is today, but it could be far bigger if you're actually using it as like the ledger of record, not
Mm.
just money, but like decentral. You store decentralized names in it, like a DNS. There's Stacks has this. They have like a block, like a Bitcoin name service that's built on Bitcoin.
Mm. Mm.
Things like that. You want cap tables, anchored in it, like companies anchored to it, etc. It's funny. Like when I went to Bitcoin in last year in Bitcoin Miami, I flew there on a plane, and I remember thinking this this plane company. I was like on JetBlue or something. This plane company is organized by employees and executives, uh, and they're all organized based on a cap table. And a cap table allows us to trust each other, allows us to build things
Mm.
beyond ourselves, uh, and basically we want as many of those cap tables attached to Bitcoin as possible. You want Bitcoin to be the denominator of all the new innovation that's happening in crypto land. And it takes it takes someone who has basically never run a company or doesn't understand credit markets or doesn't understand capital markets uh, to um, to basically not understand that insight. And I do find that just as like you know supporter like I say this with love, but like supporters of like Bernie Sanders and like AOC are like and Elizabeth Warren are like largely like economically innumerate. Like they don't actually like really understand how the economy works. They don't really understand how things are positive sum. They view like just taxing wealthy people makes the economy better somehow, or punishing wealthy people makes the economy better.
Hmm.
There's like a similar economically enumerate argument held by Bitcoiners for the sake of basically religiosity. Um, and these aren't actually Bitcoiners. Um, these are people who have essentially replaced legacy religion with a new religion. Uh, so
Yeah, I met some of them.
it's like
Some of them don't even know. I met people who spout out Bitcoin talking points, and clearly I'm fairly well versed on
mhm,
the Bitcoin talking points.
yeah.
And when various meetups I go to, and people are like, "Yeah, Bitcoin, the U.S. dollar is a shit coin." I'm like, why is the U.S. dollar a shit coin? And then falls apart really quickly. Regardless of what you believe, right? Regardless of what you,
Bitcoin weirdly needs the U.S. dollar in a very strange way, and I think that took me a
yeah,
few years to kind of like fully realize like it's kind of reliant it's a little bit reliant on the U.S. dollar in a very strange way.
yep, 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 for sure. Yeah, so I totally hear you. Let me switch gears to you for a second. 'Cause I want to talk about this, and we have about 10 minutes left or so. But I
Mhm,
want to touch on the DAO. So recently, you've changed the issuance, um, the issuance of Miami coins, right? And you guys went
mhm.
into this DAO model. How did you just go up and change the issuance by yourself?
Oh, I didn't change it myself. The community had like a series. I think we had a couple months of meetings with like dozens and dozens of people participating, commenting, adding knowledge and opinions. Uh, and the consensus was that the emissions schedule of each city coin was way too aggressive in the near and medium term, and um, and part of the reason was like when the issuance schedule was created, it was probably created in a number of in a few hours. It wasn't something that took months and months to come up with and was like handed down by aliens. And so we basically were like,
So they do exist.
yeah, they do
You
exist
heard it here
exactly.
first.
Yeah. Um, the other thing too is like city coins are not trying to be Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is king. Like that is Bitcoin is like Bitcoin's like the high torque gear that turns all the other gears that are built on Bitcoin, like stacks and city coins. It's like we bend the knee to Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is its own animal, and it halves every 4 years. City coins don't necessarily need to have a halvening every 4 years, and they don't need
Mhm.
to have such an aggressive emission schedule. So I think like roughly 50% of future tokens were removed from future issuance. Um, and part of the reason was this is to accommodate the natural growth of city coins. Basically, the emission schedule, to make an analogy, the emission schedule was like very over aggressive in the sense that it was almost like putting like a size 12 shoe on a toddler. It's like the toddler needs to grow up into that size 12 shoe, but you can't be having like clown shoes on it. The demand for new tokens was not being outstripped by the supply. The supply was well beyond the
Yeah.
demand because the supply was just too great. And these things are not sciences; they're like more like an art. And so uh, we voted on we there's like billions of city coins that were used to vote on changing the emission schedule, and so it was changed.
So now, what's the mission schedule is half what it was?
Yeah, basically, like half of the future tokens have been removed, so that shows you how aggressive it initially was.
Mm.
And there's precedent for this too. Like uh, Ethereum had done this as well. Um, um, yeah, Ethereum had done this as well. and
A-
they've done it a
And
few
when does it
times
go into
actually.
effect?
It has already happened. So
That's
um,
why I have to automatically convert my old Miami coins, the new Miami coins. I can do it on citycoins.com or on OKCoins done for you.
that's right.
So
Yeah,
whichever way for the
yeah,
folks
and
listening.
and MiamiCoin is 5x since that protocol upgrade. So like I
Has it?
think the yeah, it went from a tenth of a penny to half a penny. It's like 0.05.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah. And there's more
So yeah,
protocol upgrades that are coming too. That I think the community is the market, but also is the market is the boss of the community. Is the boss of these ecosystems to a large degree. So you need to do everything you can uh, to make sure that you have a simpatico sort of relationship with the market while thinking about the long term. You're not just trying to like juice and like game the market. Like you need to be measured, of course, but
of course.
yeah.
So what else do you see on the horizon before we get into our okay not okay segment? What do you see on the horizon for city coins? Are there other cities? Are there
Mhm.
you just teased out a couple more protocol upgrades. Um,
Yep. So
where is this
DAOs.
going?
So uh, DAOs. So people are going to be able to vote with their coin much more frequently, or they're going to be able to vote with a coin in a more meaningful way. Previously, they had kind of like no voting rights. Now they do, or they will in like the next month or two. You also see decentralized city activation. So uh, basically, any city on the planet is going to be able to be activated if there's enough community will to
Oh, what's
activate
the
it.
next one? What's the next
Uh,
one? Leak it. Leak it.
it's looking like it might be Austin,
Oh,
Texas.
okay.
Uh, but there is it's up to the community. So like if there's community demand for San Francisco, then San Francisco would be next. Um, but we want to see hundreds of city coins, and we think that having that net having all those city coins live and people building with them and voting with them is going to culminate. It's going to create something larger
Hmm.
than them all. Like the combination of them is going to be more valuable and something bigger than each of them individually. We think it'll be closer to like a network state.
That's
Is
kind of
that is
nice.
that
And that
okay or not okay?
Oh, that's definitely okay. Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that's kind of nice because what you can do is you vote from city to city. I'm excited to see a citywide market to say,
Mhm.
and in the longer run, when the market fluctuations are obfuscated away, people can actually kind of bet on cities.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for the hardest part of the interview?
Yeah. Let's do
This is
it.
all warm up.
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna be the Bitcoin Maxi version of okay, not okay. Since we talked a lot about Bitcoin
Yeah.
maxis.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm a Bitcoin centrist. So we'll
I
see.
know. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to like, put on your maxi hat or pretend. So here we go.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Working in McDonald's during bear markets, okay or not okay?
Working at McDonald's during bull markets is okay. I think working at McDonald's, I tweeted about this. Like, we should not make fun of people working at McDonald's. Like, we should have respect for people working at McDonald's. That is very okay.
Good, good. I agree. Buying a Lambo after working at McDonald's, is that okay or not okay?
Who am I to judge? I think Lambos are pretty tacky. There's probably things that are a little more tasteful. Like, I don't know, like a Ferrari or something. It's probably like slightly more tasteful. Um, La- Lambos are basically a signal that you have no taste. Like, to be honest, that's like it's like you know I don't know. That's
So
like you have no
Patrick,
style, you have no
what
taste.
Lambo?
What Lambo? No, none. I would
When
never get a
Lambo?
Lambo. Oh, when Lambo?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I live below my means. I'm not. I don't. I don't buy stuff. I just buy and hold crypto.
Okay, so here's another one. Getting a Lambo by lending out your Bitcoin and getting those BlockFi or Celsius or other staking rewards. Okay or not okay?
I mean, who am I to judge? For me, I would say not okay. I'd put it back into Bitcoin. You know, think about your children and your grandchildren.
I love it. All right,
Yeah.
here we go. Here we go. Next one. This is a two-parter. One,
Okay.
Dogecoin. Okay or not okay?
Dogecoin is very okay, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Yeah, so Dogecoin is an inside joke where when the price goes higher, the joke gets funnier, and those without a sense of humor will be the last ones holding Doge. Now you can say what you will. I used to think Dogecoin, like I don't hold Doge. I'm not gonna hold Doge. Maybe I don't have a sense of humor, but Doge is the first of basically an affinity coin. Actually, Bitcoin is basically the first meme coin. It's like the meme is digital gold. Uh, Doge is an affinity coin around a community of people who like jokes. Um, and what Doge has done is they've essentially um, they leverage code, capital, media, and community maximally. And the reason they are able to do that is because Doge is the memer's coin of choice. It's not the memer's coin of choice is not Bitcoin, it's Dogecoin. And so Dogecoin has a decentralized marketing
Mm.
army that keeps it afloat and won't go away. That being said, you know, if I'm in exchange, am I listing every dog coin that comes along? Like probably not, because when the prices crash, you know that you know that's sort of a moral hazard. But I think people should be free to associate themselves with any affinity they like. And if that's a joke, that's fine. That's fine by me. I shouldn't have any say in stopping them. And why would I? I'm not like some priest.
I'm not like some priest. This would
Yeah.
be the
I don't tell people what is halal or not, you know.
That's true. Well, it's interesting you say it's it's a joke coin, and you're right. Like people can do their own thing, but this thing has definitely morphed and lived on. And if Elon does complete the purchase of Twitter, we'll see. Maybe Doge is gonna maybe Doge will be the coin that's used on Twitter. Maybe Tip and Doge or whatnot.
Yeah, Doge is a weird thing too, just very briefly. Like Doge is like, people make fun of Keynes a lot, and like there's like there's rational arguments to be against Keynesianism, um, um, but there are also arguments for it, and Doge is kind of like the Keynesian response to the Austrian school of thought, which is Bitcoin, um, and it in a weird sort of in a weird way, it kind of makes sense. Like Doge is kind of like they could argue that they're the coin of the people because if you were a big holder in the past,
Mhm.
new holders can get in because the emission schedule is like constant. It doesn't like have or whatever. Um, the problem is like it's not enforced by guns. It's enforced by humor, and like who knows where that's going to go. That's part of the reason I can't hold it. It's like Bitcoin is very serious. I'm more serious than I am funny, and I think I like Bitcoin more than I like Doge. That's why I hold Bitcoin and not Doge. So
I'm more funny than I am serious. That's how I'm gonna buy. I'm about to go and I just buy bags of Doge. Just hoard them
I
and
mean,
keep them.
uh, to me, Doge at 10 cents actually does look. It's like Doge at 10 cents looks like a buy, but so does Bitcoin, and it's like I don't. I'd rather hold Bitcoin because it's just like I'm more sure that that's going to go up
Yeah,
and to the right.
for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so here's the last two. Rapid
Okay.
fire.
Okay.
Talking FUD. Okay or not okay?
Um, if you actually do your research, I mean, like I see people who um, most FUD is sort of like patriarchal kind of most FUD is most FUD is actually just fear in its own right. Like you're afraid that someone's not going to care about your bags, so you FUD other projects. You create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Um, most FUD, however, is happening from people who have no skin in the game. So
Mhm.
I'd rather get FUD from someone who holds coins than FUD from a no coiner who doesn't hold coins. And I think, this is like, again, our friend Balaji has this good quote. He's like, the East Coast investor, their mindset is you can't trust me because I have a conflict of interest. I'm a stakeholder. Whereas the West Coast investor mindset is you can trust me because I have skin in the game. And I'd far prefer the West Coast investor mindset over the sort of East Coast status seeking
Hmm.
sort of journalist class that owns nothing and stands for nothing, and therefore fuds everything that their owners of the newspapers especially tell them to fud.
I love it. Last one, the hardest one.
Yeah.
Trading an OK coin, okay or not okay?
Oh, definitely okay. But again, I don't trade. I just buy. I never sell. So
Buy
even
and hold.
yeah, buy and hold. Yeah,
Transacting an OK coin.
yeah,
Staking an OK coin.
yeah. I mean, OKCoin's one of those exchanges that like has a soul. Like there's a lot of exchanges that are purely transactional. Um, they're 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 not always necessarily run by good people. But OKCoin is like the whole culture of OKCoin is like good people top to bottom. I know like 30 people who work for OKCoin, and they remind me of companies I've worked for in the past, where there's like a culture of positivity and like you're not going to be perfect with everything all the time. No exchange is, um, but they strive for excellence, and they also have their own taste. They think I know you work for OKCoin, so I'm like kind of talking your book, but like they have their own taste, their own touch, their own opinion on things. Um,
Hmm.
I It's like one of those things where um, real quick story. Um, I remember in like 2016, 2015, I was talking to this guy who's like a really good guy. He worked in business development at Coinbase. And he's like, I think I'm going to leave Coinbase. It really feels like we plateaued. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. He goes, yeah, there's a couple hundred people that work here. We just feel like I just feel like it's plateaued. I think you're just kind of like bored. It's like, they're kind of like succeeding, but they weren't the Coinbase that they are today, the undervalued $16 billion company. And um, the lesson from that to me was like, if you're an exchange and you're just doggedly persistent, day in and day out, put the work in. Over the course of a decade, the exchange is going to be very large and it's going to be loved by consumers. And I think OKCoin is like clearly on that track, and it's one of those things where like if you zoom out and looked at like Coinbase's like users or Airbnb's users, it looks so small in the early days until it compounds and becomes much larger over time.
Hmm.
So I think OKCoin is going to be a massive exchange in the future. It's going to take some years to compound. 5 years from now, I think everyone at OKCoin are going to be stock holding millionaires. But it's gonna take a few more years to get there. They're like the soul and operational experience of a big exchange in a smaller than large exchange.
Love it. Well, look, thank you so
Yeah.
much for the kind words. That's what made me or
Mhm.
induced me to come as
Mhm.
well. Come over to OKCoin and work with them. So, Patrick, really quickly, just to wrap up here, where can people find you? How can people reach out to you and or read more about CityCoins?
Yeah, you can check out CityCoins on citycoins.co. Website's probably gonna be updated soon to reflect like new goings ons and product positioning and things like that. The Twitter for CityCoins is at mine CityCoins, and my handle is at Patrick W Stanley. And I'm pretty active on Twitter, so
Awesome.
thanks for having me. It was great. It was great having me, and thanks for letting me ramble.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for coming. I would love to. We need to do this monthly,
I would love.
by some monthly, daily. We're gonna do OKCoin like daily music with Patrick.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this, and it's good seeing you as always.
Awesome. Well, great seeing you as well. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, see ya.